Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates. I have another video for you. The title of the video is You Are Responsible for Firing Nuclear Weapons in Your Relationship. Now, the title is sort of funny as I read it there. Doesn't mean you need to get busy being responsible and firing more nuclear weapons in your relationship. That's not where I was going. Should probably read, you are responsible for the firing of nuclear weapons. At any rate, I have a really wonderful men's group here in Carmel, Indiana, in our practice at Family Tree. It's been going 3 years or so, and there's usually 4, 5, 6 fellas, sometimes 7 or 8, who come and are part of our community. And it's about half therapy and half locker room. This past week, we did a lot of good therapy, but we kept lapsing into football talk. It's football season, and we'd spend 10 minutes analyzing what's going on with the Patriots and how good of a running back is the Cowboys running back. And but dudes, if you're in the Indianapolis area and you want to work on your recovery for a low price, it's only $25, and you're seeking a community of men that isn't weird, come check us out. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, I was in the men's group a couple weeks ago, and we have a fella in there. Fella's name's Tom, and he is studying to be a counselor, and he's pretty bright, pretty insightful, but he stunned us with some really good analogies here in the last couple of weeks. And one of them was he was making reference to a guy movie. And shamefully, we all thought we were talking about the movie The Hunt for Red October. It was sort of a Tom Clancy submarine movie. But actually, when I went to do some research, we were actually talking about another Tom Clancy submarine movie, and that is Crimson Tide. So I told the fellas if I would have blogged about The Hunt for Red October mistakenly, we all would have lost our man cards over that grievous error. So Tom's a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, and my dad was a big Pittsburgh Pirate fan, and when Tom comes to group with his pirate shirt on, it stirs up old dad memories for me. So Tom explained that a nuclear weapon bearing submarine, in that vessel, both the commanding officer and the executive officer must agree that an order to launch a nuclear weapon is valid, and then they must mutually authorize the launch with their operations personnel by each of them inserting their highly secure keys into the firing mechanisms. This is a safety feature called double integrity, which I really like. In the movie, one of my very, very favorite actors, Gene Hackman, played this passionate, volatile commanding officer who liked to drop F-bombs, and he's demanding that his XO, his executive officer, played by the awesome Denzel Washington, that he sign on with the firing of some nuclear warheads. They got an order to fire them, but then the orders were cut off, and it wasn't completed. So there's some chance that they were being told not to fire. So do you fire and start World War III, or do you not fire, based on incomplete information? So the executive officer very courageously and resolutely refused to comply with his commanding officer's rather aggressive position. And I'll let you finish the movie. On my blog there is a link to some of the most powerful scenes in the movie. But the point is, it takes two to tango. Sometimes if your spouse gets fussy and they start to throw rocks at you emotionally, it feels like there's only one person tangoing. But I tell you what, if it gets very heated, it takes two. At some point, you pick up a rock and start chunking them back their direction. So theoretically, you're in charge of your secure firing key. You don't have to go nuclear unless you jump in and fully sign on. You might want to keep that firing key tucked away in a safe, as is required by Navy regulations, but the choice is yours. Going nuclear in a fight with your partner is your decision. It doesn't have to be a knee-jerk, out-of-control reaction. It is a decision that is not made for you. And I know that feels like it feels like you don't have control of your partner, and they get reactive and they snipe at you and they press the buttons on your forehead, and it feels like you have to react. And I'm just saying, as you evolve and as you become more individuated, you don't have to play. You don't have to play. You don't have to cuss. You don't have to fight. I'm not sitting here and saying in my relationship I never get reactive. That would be a lie. If you catch me really stressed and really tired, and with Betsy coming at me with guns a-blazing, I can act like a 2-year-old as good as anybody. So, a reactive, individuated person is sort of like a bull with a ring in their nose. As long as that massive, powerful animal has that ring in his nose, a much less physically strong and powerful human can take control of him and lead him wherever they choose to. The ring in your nose is your unresolved childhood wounds that cause you to be defensive, cause you not to listen, cause you to be explosive, to overreact, to become non-objective, to dance the crazy dance, as I say. And ultimately, you pull that secure nuclear weapon key out of the safe and you join your already activated partner, and it's time for World War III. And it doesn't have to happen. What I've seen in recovery and therapy is actually one person who is de-escalating can de-escalate the other person. It doesn't have to be getting dragged down by the thrashing, reactive, crazy person. It doesn't have to be you both become drunk on abandonment and shame because one person is. It's actually, if you're clear on who you are, and if you're seeing the person's behavior as just their wounds from their childhood, and don't personalize them, then your amount of time that there's big ugly fights will be greatly diminished. And big ugly fights are just draining and nightmarish, and they're just horrible. Those of you who've had those on a regular basis, you know what I'm talking about. It's not fun. So that's the goal, is to realize that there is double integrity. You both have to sign on for the crazy dance, for the big explosions. And you say, well, if I leave the room, they follow. Well, if that's the case, then leave the house. And if they won't let you leave the house, then you got to rethink, living there. you probably need to separate. If they're not going to honor your physical space and your comings and goings, that's not a safe place for you to live. So there's going to need to be a separation until that place is safer to where you can say, listen, this is about ready to escalate. I went down to the basement, you followed me, I'm going to go over to my brother's house and sleep over there. So let me go now, and we'll talk tomorrow. And if they say, nope, let's do this now, here's your firing key, let's have World War III right now, then you got to come back the next day and say, I went ahead and moved over to my brother's house, and because we got work to do, and we can't be having these nuclear escalations, every fifth night. So just a thought that you're in control of your own destiny. And if there is, if you're drawn into an ugly fight, it's because you've allowed yourself to be susceptible to being drawn into an ugly fight. You can communicate your pain in a safer and a more vulnerable way. I share all the time that what I'm looking for is I'm looking for somebody to come in and really pour out their inner child, but then instead of having judgment, instead of having criticism, instead of having shame, instead of having defensiveness, as you see maybe a tear coming down, then you don't take it personal, and you see that wounded little kid, and you reach over and just wipe the tear off and get him a tissue and give him a hug, and you show empathy, and you don't have to be defensive, you don't have to take it personally. The relationship is intended to dig up your deepest wounds from your childhood. Your marriage is intended to make you miserable. If your marriage is making you miserable, it's working like it was designed to work. So somebody who really understands this is just filled with gratitude. They're not filled with bitterness. There's no bitterness. There's no place for bitterness. They're filled with, I know that I'm in the relationship that I'm supposed to be in, and I'm learning what I need to learn, and I'm thankful. And that de-escalates the whole mood and tone of the relationship. And as you look over at that person, you're loving on that wounded little kid. You're giving them what they never got from their parents. You, the person who's made out of the same psychological DNA, are giving them tenderness and kindness and acceptance and nurturing that they didn't get from their parents. So, a little shorter video today. That's all I really had, just to say that, you're in charge of yourself, and you can de-escalate. As it turns out, Gene Hackman would have started World War III and killed millions of people accidentally, because the actual message was abort. So the cooler head, the guy who kept his firing pin locked up, even though he had to fight for that right, was the character played by Denzel Washington. So keeping the firing pin from, being activated, averted, mass destruction, as it will with you on a smaller level. So, hey, if you haven't joined our YouTube channel, join us. We're about 1,450 now on our channel. Right now it's just me and Andy and Jerry, but we've got some other folks getting ready to make some videos as well. It's Family Tree Counseling, on YouTube. And visit our website, familytreecounseling.com. I do have a very good book on abandonment issues, very good book on shame, very good book on affair recovery, a book on male counterdependency, a book on the basics of recovery, and a book about something else. I can't remember what it is right now, marital issues. So visit our website, join our YouTube channel, and thank you so much for watching today. And avoid nuclear warfare, my friends. God bless.